Scorpio, something shocking is coming. Not by chance, not by luck, but by energetic law. At the end of October, the universe will deliver a financial return so unexpected, it will shake your inner foundation in the best way possible. This isn't a reward for good behavior. It's not a prize for enduring pain. It's a sacred payback for the strength you showed when no one was watching, for the light you carried when no one noticed, and for the grace you offered even when your own soul was breaking. And if you found yourself here, listening to these words, know this: it's not an accident. This message was always meant to reach you now, not before, because only now are you ready to receive it. Scorpio, soul of transformation, you've walked through fire with your mouth closed and your heart open. You've rebuilt from ashes more times than you can count. And still, you've remained steady. Silent. Present. But the silence has been recorded. The patience, the loyalty, the heartbreak every moment has been captured in a divine ledger. And now, the account is being balanced. This video isn't just a message. It's a moment of activation. What you're about to hear is a spiritual transmission wrapped in language. These aren't predictions. They're confirmations. Confirmations of what your spirit already knew but your human mind couldn't yet name. The shocking amount of money that's being released into your field isn't just currency, it's compensation. Energetic, emotional, financial. It's a restoration of what was drained from you, piece by piece, layer by layer. This return is not material allanite, is spiritual justice manifesting through tangible form. So let me ask you this, Scorpio, are you ready to stop proving your worth and start receiving from it instead? Because the universe is not just giving you something, it's giving you back something. Something that always had your name on it, written in light, waiting for the moment when you would believe you're finally allowed to hold it. And if your heart already knows this message is for you, then don't wait to confirm it. Type 77 in the comments right now, not as a trend, but as a signature. A sacred signal. An energetic yes. Because yes, this video is for you. Yes, your name is on the return. And yes, what's coming is going to surprise you in ways your spirit has long prepared for, even if your mind couldn't imagine it yet. Let me take a moment to thank you deeply for being here. Your presence, your likes, your comments, your subscriptions, none of it goes unnoticed. You are not just a viewer. You are a vital part of this spiritual circle. A sacred soul in the miracle of the sign family. Your energy helps keep these transmissions alive, pulsing, reaching others who are ready to rise just like you. So don't rush. Don't skip ahead. Let your soul catch this moment. Let it land. Because Scorpio, what the universe is revealing today is nothing short of breathtaking, and you will want to be here for every second of it. Are you ready to finally receive what was always yours? Then stay with me. This begins now. Scorpio, you have endured more than most would ever dare to guess. The quiet strength you carry has not only held you, but has held others. You've been the steady heartbeat in chaotic rooms, the silent fire in spaces that forgot who lit the match. And yet, through it all, you did not make noise. You chose stillness over fury, grace over retribution. And that choice, again and again, was not weakness, it was planting. Planting seeds that now, in this sacred timing, are beginning to rise through the soil of your life. There is a sacred geometry to energy, and everything you gave, your patience, your forgiveness, your loyalty when it wasn't returned has not vanished. In fact, it has crystallized in the ether, woven itself into the threads of the reality now forming beneath your feet. In the laws of energetic exchange, nothing you gave in purity is ever wasted. It simply matures in invisible places until now. Think about how many times you've bitten your tongue to keep peace, even when your spirit ached for release. How many nights you stayed up, not for yourself, but to anchor someone else's pain. How many apologies you never received. You wore silence like armor, not to hide, but to protect what still mattered inside you. These are not forgotten gestures. They are spiritual blueprints. And the universe has been following them closely. You are the one who lit candles in the dark while pretending you didn't need the light. The one who built bridges from your own bones and let others walk across without noticing the cracks. There is no ledger in the sky keeping count of your good deeds. But there is a language of vibration, of frequency, of intention, and that language never lies. It has been speaking your name through subtle shifts, preparing a return that is not just material, but multidimensional. The wealth you are about to receive is not a prize. It is a mirror. It reflects who you've been all along. And it has waited patiently, like water behind a dam, until the moment you were sturdy enough to hold it without fear that it would slip away. This is the moment. Not when you've done enough, but when you finally believe you already are. From an astrological view, you are ruled by Pluto and Mars, forces of transformation and intensity. But what often goes unnoticed is how much of your transformation has happened in silence. While the world applauds the loud and the visible, you've been evolving quietly, deeply. And that evolution is now turning into manifestation. Energy does not disappear. It circulates. And everything you gave from a clean heart is circling back, not always from the source you gave it to, but from where your soul needs it most. It may arrive as an opportunity, a windfall, a divine reconnection, or a soft peace you didn't know you'd forgotten how to feel. The law of return is not folklore, it is structure. The universe is not rewarding you. It is simply responding to the truth of who you've been when no one was looking. If your heart feels the truth of these words, breathe into it. Let that breath remind you that your softness was never a liability. It was a current. And that current has finally found its way back home. And if you feel ready, truly ready to receive what was always meant for you, leave a comment below. Let the number 77 mark this moment as your declaration. A moment that whispers, I remember. I allow. I accept. Scorpio, every tear you've held back in silence has carried more than sorrow, it has carried intention. Each moment you sat in the dark and whispered words that no one heard, the universe did. Not because it needed volume to validate your pain, but because energy pure, focused, and surrender is the most powerful language of all. In the sacred rhythm of your soul's journey, you've been sowing not seeds of striving, but seeds of quiet faith. Faith not in outcomes, but in meaning. Faith that even if no one saw your ache, something greater was listening. There's a reason you're drawn to the number 77. In numerology, it's not just a sequence. It is a signal of alignment, divine completion. It marks the end of a silent cycle, the culmination of work that wasn't done on the surface, but at the root. It speaks of things unseen finally emerging into the light, not as reward, but as recognition. When we see the number 77, we are being told, the energy you've stored in the unseen realms is now crossing into the visible. What was once inner preparation is becoming outer reality. Many times, you may have found yourself holding space for others, pouring patience into places that never gave back. You forgave without an apology. You waited without asking for credit. You breathed through sleepless nights and wore calm as a covering, even when your own soul was trembling. These aren't just stories of endurance. They are sacred prayers disguised as daily choices. And Scorpio, you have prayed more with your life than with your words. That is what this season is responding to. The universe operates on vibration, not performance. And the vibration you've been sending out is not one of lack, it's one of legacy. Every withheld retaliation, every restrained reaction, every moment you softened when you had every right to shut down, that was not weakness. That was frequency setting. That was soul alignment. You didn't always see what you were building, but now the foundation is firm, and what's coming can finally rest on it. When your spirit becomes fertile ground, abundance doesn't need permission to grow. It recognizes itself in you. It sees where it belongs. And now, in this moment, the energy of money, peace, and restored opportunity is no longer circling its landing. Because your soul no longer feels like a battlefield. It feels like home. The kind of home where blessings don't feel foreign anymore. What's even more powerful is this: the energy of your tears, when given in trust, not fear, becomes one of the highest vibrations of creation. They weren't wasted. They were woven into the architecture of your breakthrough. And while others may have never seen the cost, the universe kept every receipt. The shift you're feeling isn't external, it's internal stability finally becoming visible. You don't need a stage to be validated. You don't need recognition to be worthy. You need only to remember, what you gave from love has returned multiplied. And now that you've become a container strong enough to hold it, the floodgates are beginning to open, not to test you, but to restore you. So breathe, Scorpio. Inhale your own resilience. Exhale any story that says you're still waiting. You are not waiting anymore. You are becoming. Becoming the place where divine alignment, sacred timing, and real abundance meet. And if your soul knows that this is more than coincidence, let it be known. Write it down. Speak it aloud. Comment 77, not for superstition, but as an anchor, your personal declaration that the harvest has begun. There are certain moments when the heavens shift ever so subtly, and yet the ripple is felt deep within the body, often before the mind has any name for it. Scorpio, this is one of those moments. As we approach the final days of October, a cosmic alignment is quietly unlocking something you've been energetically preparing for, even in your most exhausted seasons. Pluto, your ruling planet, governs transformation through intensity, breaking down to rebuild stronger, truer, cleaner. Jupiter, the planet of expansion and wealth, stretches this process into abundance, adding grace to your grit. And Venus, the force of value, self-worth, and sensual restoration, enters to soften the edges of your resilience. When these three celestial bodies converse, not in chaos but in harmony, what they activate is not drama but divine release. This isn't merely planetary movement. It's energetic permission. Permission for wealth to meet you where you are. For an overdue opportunity to land. For an answer you stopped asking for to finally arrive. But here's the nuance most miss: this kind of shift doesn't reward performance. It responds to readiness. And readiness is what you've been quietly shaping in the dark through healing, through honesty, through surrender. Tarot speaks in symbols, but those symbols are mirrors. The Judgment card has shown up in this energetic chapter not as punishment, but as resurrection. It signals a return, a lifting, a call forward from the parts of yourself that had to die off just to keep going. The Ten of Pentacles, meanwhile, whispers of a long-awaited legacy. Not a random windfall, but the kind of stability that is earned not through effort, but through alignment. This is the wealth that arrives when your nervous system says yes, when your inner ground has been tilled, when your roots are no longer gripping but receiving. That's what makes the last few days of this month so potent. From October 27th to the 31st, the cosmic current is particularly attuned to movement of money, yes, but more importantly, movement of meaning. You may receive a message you weren't expecting, an opportunity that had been long delayed, or a financial breakthrough that enters from an unexpected source. But no matter how it arrives, the origin is the same. What's showing up now is not a coincidence. It's a withdrawal from a soul account you didn't even realize you'd been building. Imagine your soul as a quiet savings vault, accumulating every unseen gesture every time you chose kindness instead of retaliation, every time you gave without asking for credit, every time you stayed when it would have been easier to walk away. These acts didn't go unnoticed. They became deposits. Not in an earthly bank, but in a vibrational one. And now, that account is being accessed not because you finally did something right, but because you've reached a frequency that can finally hold what's always been yours. There's a difference between chasing abundance and receiving it. And you, Scorpio, are no longer in pursuit. You are in position. You are not begging for breakthrough. You are becoming the space in which breakthrough has no choice but to arrive. The gates have been opened. The currency is moving. And what's flowing to you now is not just money, it's meaning, mirrored back in material form. So if you feel something shifting, even if you can't name it yet, trust that your spirit already knows. This is the moment the soul gets paid. Not in coins, but in confirmation. Not in numbers, but in knowing. Let it come. Let it land. You don't have to ask for it anymore. You just have to receive. Forgiveness isn't about letting others off the hook, it's about releasing yourself from a contract your soul never agreed to carry forever. Scorpio, you already know that pain doesn't always scream. Sometimes, it settles quietly into the corners of your body. Into your breath. Into your choices. And while your mind has learned to adapt, your energy remembers. The truth is, money doesn't flow where resentment still resides. Abundance cannot land where the emotional terrain is guarded, tight, or hardened by old wounds. And this is why, in your current season of receiving, the act of forgiveness, of releasing, not excusing, becomes the energetic gatekeeper of your wealth. When we talk about wealth through the lens of astrology and energy, we are never just speaking of numbers. We are speaking of capacity. The ability to hold joy without flinching. The ability to accept ease without fear it will be taken away. The ability to feel safe inside your own body, not just because life is quiet outside, but because your inner world is no longer at war. Forgiveness is the bridge between your past survival and your future stability. And you don't have to wait for closure from another to begin walking across it. The body is often the first to carry betrayal and the last to release it. So begin here. Ask yourself gently, have I fed myself with care today, not just with food, but with rest, with softness, with stillness? Have I allowed myself to step out of survival mode, even briefly, and into the energy of calm receiving? These questions aren't optional. They are essential. Because money, love, opportunity, they do not chase effort. They follow safety. When your nervous system begins to feel safe again, the gates open. Not metaphorically, but biologically, energetically, spiritually. That is where the real abundance flows. True self-healing isn't glamorous. It's often slow, unphotographed, and deeply personal. It looks like drinking warm water before coffee, taking magnesium before reaching for your phone, letting the sun kiss your face for 10 minutes before turning on a screen, choosing hot, nourishing food when your emotions want cold, fast numbing. These acts may seem unrelated to wealth, but they are not. They are signals to the universe that say, I am stabilizing. I am safe to receive. I am no longer surviving, I am ready to be sustained. Your spiritual readiness isn't measured by how much you can manifest when you're feeling high. It's measured by how gently you return to center when you feel low. That return day after day is what shapes the foundation of lasting prosperity. Because when the money does come, and it will, it should not land on shaky ground. It should land where it feels invited, welcomed, trusted. So today, Scorpio, consider this. Who or what are you still tethered to in your energy? What resentment are you carrying like a weight disguised as armor? What part of you still believes that if you let go, you'll lose more? Because the truth is the opposite. When you forgive, you reclaim space. Space for clarity. Space for miracles. Space for the version of you that no longer needs to perform for love, or grind for safety, or prove your worth through exhaustion. And if your body is already whispering yes, if your chest has softened just reading these words, honor that. Let that be your signal. You don't need to forgive because they deserve it. You need to forgive because you do. Because peace has been knocking at your door, and this is the moment you finally open it. Not with fear. Not with force. But with the quiet authority of someone who has chosen to live free. Scorpio, there comes a moment in the journey when you realize that receiving is not about worthiness, it's about readiness. Not about proving yourself to the universe, but about becoming soft enough to allow what's been circling you for years to finally land. This is that moment. You've done the work. You've held the weight. You've carried the quiet. And now, the frequency around you is shifting, not because you're hustling harder, but because you've started to settle into the truth of who you already are. This is what we call the allowing frequency. The vibrational state where nothing is forced, and everything flows. Money doesn't rush toward pressure. It responds to presence. And presence is what you've cultivated through stillness, through self-honesty, through the gentle decision to come back to yourself, even when it would have been easier to run. This part of your path isn't about chasing manifestations or begging for signs. It's about learning how to be a safe place for abundance to arrive. And not just financial abundance, but emotional richness, relational harmony, creative expansion. The moment you stop trying to outrun your fears and instead sit with them, tend to them, something incredible happens. The things you thought you had to chase begin to turn toward you. What would you do if a shocking amount of money arrived tomorrow? Not just to pay a bill, but to nourish you? To rebuild you? To expand what you didn't even realize had been shrinking within you? Would you breathe a little deeper? Would you rest without guilt? Would you feed your body with the kind of care you often save for others? This is the inquiry at the heart of true abundance, not what you'll spend, but what you'll repair. What you'll restore. What parts of yourself you'll finally choose to stop abandoning. The soul doesn't ask for luxury. It asks for peace. And peace often begins with knowing you don't have to apologize for needing more. More rest. More room. More joy. And maybe most importantly, more gentleness. Wealth, in its truest form, is the freedom to live without suppressing your own rhythm. To say no without fear. To say yes without debt. To stop negotiating with your own needs just to belong somewhere that no longer aligns with you. In the rhythm of universal energy, receiving is an act of alignment. Not perfection. Not performance. When you begin to feel safe within yourself, your reality reflects that safety. Not as a reward, but as a mirror. You're not becoming deservingly always been. What's different now is your ability to hold without grasping. To allow without explaining. To rest in the knowing that you are no longer chasing the life you desire, but allowing it to meet you exactly where you are. So I ask you now, Scorpio, from a place of sacred invitation, what would you finally heal, if money was no longer a concern? What version of you would rise, if survival didn't speak so loudly in your choices? And if your heart has an answer, I want you to share it. Not just as a comment but as a declaration to yourself, and to the energy that surrounds you. Let this be a moment of energetic agreement. That you're no longer available for scarcity, not just in your finances, but in your self-worth, your rest, your joy. True wealth is not the number in your account. It's the permission you give yourself to stop abandoning your own needs just to feel secure. When you no longer need to justify your existence with overgiving, over-explaining, overachieving, you begin to live. Not later, but now. And that, Scorpio, is the richest thing of all. Scorpio, you didn't come here today by accident. You were led. And perhaps that whisper in your heart, the one that's been nudging you to believe again, to hope again, is not just your voice. Maybe it's the sacred echo of something older and wiser within you, something that has always known you were meant to thrive, not survive. You are not here to prove anything. You're not here to earn your worth or chase after blessings like they're distant stars. You are here to receive. To allow. To soften into the truth that you are already the evidence of divine timing, already the proof of sacred worth. You do not need to be chosen. You've already chosen yourself. Be continuing, by believing, by showing up when it would have been easier to give up. The abundance that's coming isn't a prize. It's a homecoming. And the miracle that's unfolding isn't loud. It's precise, quiet, like a door clicking open after years of being locked. And now the universe is asking, will you walk through it, or will you keep standing in the hallway, waiting for permission that was never needed? If your heart feels full, if your eyes have softened, if something in your chest is saying, this is what I've been waiting for, then take a moment right now and anchor that energy. You don't have to write a long response. Just type 77 in the comments. Let it be your way of saying yes. Not just to me. Not even to this message. But to yourself. To your season of receiving. To your next chapter, which doesn't require exhaustion or explanation, only alignment. And if you felt seen today, if this message lit even one small spark inside you, I invite you to stay close. Like this video if you want to root this moment into your energetic timeline. Subscribe if you want to continue walking with me through what's coming next. And share this message with someone you love, especially if you know they've been quietly hoping for a sign. Let me also take a moment to thank you, truly, for being here. For choosing to spend time in this sacred space with me, for trusting your inner guidance even when the path has felt uncertain. Every like, every comment, every subscription brings you closer to the heart of this soul family here at Miracle of the Sign. Your presence isn't just appreciated, it's essential. It is what allows this channel to grow, to glow, and to continue offering messages that heal, inspire, and awaken. So I'll leave you with this. May you receive what's coming not just with open hands, but with a heart that no longer hides from its own radiance. May this shocking financial return meet you not in scarcity, but in sacred knowing. You are not late for your miracle. You are right on time. And it's already reaching for you. Will you let it in?